The hardest part too is once you kind of get on that straight and narrow, finding out how much latitude you have, right? Some people they may not be able to do dairy afterwards. Some may still have to be grain free. They can't even do rice or oatmeal, right? So some people they got to be a little bit more tighter on their diet. Some can be a little bit looser, and it's harder. The hardest thing I think is with kids because kids. I mean, I have a 2 and 4 year old boys, right? And most kids their age eat like crap. It is just like absolutely mortifying to see how most kids eat. And normal and typical are two different things, right? So people say, I want to be a normal kid. I want to eat like a normal kid. It's like, no, you want to eat like a typical kid. Like normal 60 years ago was a totally different diet than normal today, right? 60 years ago, everything was mostly organic. Kids ate relatively, whole foods. And there wasn't all the GMOs and all the crap and all the excess omega-6 fats and trans fats. And people were eating good proteins at every meal. And we had actually home cooked meals and home cooked dinners. That's totally different today, right? And so typical and normal are two different things.
Yeah, not many seed oils or non-existent seed oils. Or go back a little further. Go back 5,000, 15, 20,000 years in the United States, even just a few hundred. You read the Native American stories. I mean, those kids were eating bison. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, you know what they were having? They were having bison. If it was a time where they maybe didn't get a kill, they had pemmican, which is going to be like a dried meat product. Maybe some, I know some tribes, they would integrate berries into it. But if your food has a brand to it, now there are some exceptions, like there are some really good companies that make bison meat and all that. But in
Beef
general,
jerky. Yeah, there's some good stuff. There's some decent paleo granola. If you can handle nuts and seeds, then that stuff's okay as well, for
But
sure.
in general, my point is if your food has a brand to it, it's probably some level of processed. Now, if you
Correct.
say a farm, like a farm name, I don't consider that a brand. I'm talking like Kellogg. That's a brand. If your food has a brand to it, it's probably not something good. I'm not looking at the brand of my wild blueberries. I guess technically they have a name or a store, but they're blueberries. So you
Mhm.
just got to think simply. And as you mentioned, long term, there may be dietary changes, but overall, I think a lot of people can get back to foods that they previously avoided or were previously afraid of. Not to mention people that are afraid of meat. So many people are afraid of red meat. We interview people all the time and they say, oh, I eat red meat a couple times a month. I'm like, a couple times a month? I eat red meat every day. I'm like, why? And oh, well,
Mhm.
my cholesterol or my heart or my doctor said this. And so there's still so much programming. I think you and I forget. Now, I know you have TVs and you probably have some exposure to this, but in general, I don't have any exposure to pharmaceutical ads. And so I forget just how much indoctrination and programming of dietary information people have. And so part of the art of what we're doing too is just removing any of the historical programming they've had about certain foods. I think some people
Yep.
freak themselves out so much. They've been told a certain food is so bad for them. They go into it thinking, if I eat this steak, I'm going to have problems. And they literally will put so much stress and emotion into the worry of food that then drives further symptoms.